Good evening from Mork Saloon. We are in the sweet tooth mode at the moment. As you might know from watching other videos that we've done, we're not big on sugar. Sugar is not man's or woman's friend. Therefore we shouldn't be eating too much of it, and that includes things like fructose, which comes from fruit sugar. However, we also have to deal with reality at certain times, and there are things called desserts, and there are things called sweet teeth and things like that. So let's not be complete purists in this world. However, this is probably one of the sweetest dishes that I make for dessert purposes, and I would advise that it's eaten in moderation for that reason. This has more sugar in it, I think, than the ice cream dish that we present in another video. But since we love the South Pacific, and since we love Tahiti, we're going to share this little Tahitian dessert with you called poi. And it is so simple to make and so easy to do, but again, it's eaten in moderation. However, it is eaten with coconut milk, and that's the only reason we make this dish, is because it allows you to eat a fair amount of coconut milk with it. And that's very good for you. So we try to create a balance in everything we do. So what is this nasty mess? This nasty mess is actually a very convenient nasty mess, because when you take bananas and put them in a Ziploc and put them in the freezer and thaw them later on, you get this wonderful syrupy banana mess, nice soft bananas. I just got this out of the refrigerator ready to go. You get this syrupy stuff, and it's excellent for things like baking. That's what we're doing now. And in here, you might wonder what this is. It's simply a little bit of shredded coconut, and I'll tell you in a minute why it's in here. It's just an overflow situation. So first off, we're going to put in these bananas, and this is about five or six bananas is what you have here. You can't see it now, but initially they filled the whole bag almost. So that's that for that. Let's wash my fingers here for a second. And then the official recipe just calls for bananas and tapioca flour or cornstarch, and that should be organic. If you use cornstarch, I use tapioca. But it's just cornstarch and bananas, and then the Tahitians actually put sugar in there on top of it, which is crazy. But I don't at all. What we do though is, for those who watch the coconut milk video, you'll notice that when you make coconut milk, you end up with this pulp. Once you squeeze the coconut, you end up with this pulp at the end, and it's almost like a flour, see? So what we have done is started putting this into our poi, because why not? It's delicious. So here we have this is about a, what is it, half cup measure. So if you push it down a little bit and get the air out, and plus the little stuff I had in the bottom of the bowl that didn't quite fit in the cup measure. So you're looking at about a half a dense cup of coconut, basically coconut flour at this point. So we'll put that in. Straight old shredded coconut pulp here. And if you don't juice, if you don't make coconut milk like this, then you can just use a little shredded coconut instead. Just put a half cup of shredded coconut instead. You'll get the same flavor and a similar effect. So we're going to do that. Wash my hand again momentarily here. And normally this would call for a cup of tapioca, but because we have the coconut in there as well, we may not quite. Depends a little on how much the coconut soaks up. So you just kind of check it out. See, that coconut absorbs quite a bit of moisture as it is. So we're not going to put a full cup of tapioca in. We'll probably put, let's see what cup measures we have. I got a third of a cup here, so we'll put two of these in, 2/3 of a cup instead of a whole cup. And this is tapioca. Now, if anybody who watches this video knows of a source for organic tapioca, please comment on the video so we can all benefit, because I have not found any yet. So we have to use non-organic tapioca for this. And you could use an organic cornstarch, but again, that's also hard to find. So we'll put this. And if you ever by mistake end up putting a little too much tapioca in here, put a little water in there, and you'll pretty much have the upper hand. It's hard to go wrong with a lot of recipes. And this is very, very messy, okay? Tapioca will get all over you. It's worse than regular flour. So, you know, I keep it in this box just to keep things from getting out of hand. This is, of course, a gluten-free recipe, given we can't eat gluten around here, so everything here is gluten-free. Now that's looking pretty good, and that was about a half cup of coconut pulp and or shredded coconut, and 2/3 of a cup of tapioca flour, and about 5 or 6 bananas. But again, it's much easier to do this when you have those bananas mushed up, like post-frozen thawed condition, like we showed you. It's much harder to do this if you're using fresh bananas. You got to mash them a lot more. Anyway, since this is a Tahitian dessert, we'll put a little Tahitian vanilla in there. Hand carried home from Tahiti. I wish I could share that with you, but I can't. But it's very, very delicious. Tahitian vanilla is a step above the rest. So then we'll put that in there. Go. Just clean off those guys there. There we go. And then, because it is a dish from the tropics, what we're gonna do is use a little bit of coconut oil here for conditioning the pan for using it for the baking process. Coconut oil is very greasy, which is great for keeping things from sticking. You can even use coconut oil if you're like cooking rice in a pot and you don't want it to stick. You can actually coat the pot with coconut oil first and rice doesn't stick. If you're Asian, you probably know that, but for someone like me from Northern Europe, guess what? I had to learn it on my own. So we just take this and coat the little ceramic dish here. And the oven should be about 350. I might as well. We have a gas oven, so it's really, really fast. But 350 normally. Then you can adjust that to your own altitude and whatnot. It's almost a spur of the moment kind of dish because you can make it in about half an hour. You see how easy it is to whip this together. So, and the baking time is like 30 to 45 minutes depending on how hot your oven is and all that. So it really is pretty easy. So we'll just put this right in here. And you can make this with other fruit as well. Even like certain sweet potatoes and stuff. Papaya sometimes. And you can look it up if you Google poi, which is P-O-E. And you can add Tahitian to that if you want. Then you'll probably find some recipes for some of the other types of poi that's out there. But they eat this all over Polynesia. Hawaiian poi is a whole different thing. P-O-I, poi. That's made of taro root, and that's not a dessert exactly. That's a condiment, or more of a staple. But poi, Tahitian poi, is a dessert. So we'll stick that in here. You can see there's a lot of food here. We usually share with a neighbor because we don't want to eat this much fructose in a matter of a few days. So we share generously when we make this dish. And it's hard to make it much smaller, so. Anyway, that goes into the oven. Voila, so to speak. They do speak French in Tahiti. And then we'll set the timer for about a half hour. And then we'll get back to you when it's time. Aloha from Work Saloon. Yarana. Okay, so the timer just went off on the poi here, so let's see how that's going. That's looking good. It's letting go. In case you're wondering what this is a Danish potato peeler helper. You take this and you stick it in the potato, and that way you can hold the potato without getting hot fingers. You know, from the old country. But it comes in handy for other things like this. You can also see that this is brown around the edges, so it's good, it's done. So we'll leave that there to cool, and then we'll dress it up a little later when it cools off. Okay, so here's our poi. Nice and sturdy poi. It has a little slight spring to it. So we're just gonna, again, this has a fair amount of fructose in it, so you really don't need to overdo this. You really don't want to overdo this. Sugar is not your friend. But, as we said before, it's better than going out and eating 5 Mars bars, okay? So, at least there's a little bit of nature in this dish, namely bananas. And not much else. So, we usually sort of cut out the area we want to work on here, because, there we go. It's hard to get it out of this pan sometimes, so there we go. We'll lift this guy out. And I like to serve it upside down, just because that's more like poi, the way I understand it. At least that's how it looks when you have it in Tahiti. And then basically you go with your coconut milk here, which I made earlier today. And you have the video showing how to do that. It's a separate video. So we'll just grab a napkin here and pour a little coconut milk on. By a little, I mean a fair amount. You kind of want that much. That's kind of how it works. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Then you just take a little bite of this. And the poi can be warm. It's actually nice when the poi is a little bit warm. Not hot, but warm. Then you just take a little scoop like this and then just enjoy, you know. Takes you right back to the island.